Hello there, it's really good to be back. I've had a couple of weeks away. It's also really nice to be back out and about in the landscape and making videos for you. But I've always fancied myself as a pretty good teacher, but the last few months, or the couple of months homeschooling my children, I've realised I'm a terrible teacher of children. I've got zero patience, zero tolerance. It takes loads of time. We haven't achieved all that much, and it's just been really difficult. But what has been good is the time we've spent together and the experiences we've had together, and I think through that they have probably learned quite a lot. And that got me thinking about photography. Now, with your photography, when we start out as landscape photographers, just as a hobby maybe, we do that often because we just love the outdoors. We love being out and about, and we want to capture some of that. But as you get into it and you get a bit deeper into the technical things and trying to make your camera work, it's very easy to start forgetting why we are actually doing it, and you just get so focused on the shot. Overall, that really doesn't matter whether you get a good shot or not. Now, I didn't really miss the photography during lockdown because I get just as much satisfaction out of making a macro photograph at home as I do getting a landscape photograph. But what I did miss was this, being out and about in these beautiful places, experiencing the outdoors. And for me, it's probably about 10% photography, 90% the experience. It really doesn't matter if you get a shot. What does matter is the adventure, the experience, the challenge of trying to get a photograph and enjoying that, whether it's successful or not, and then exploring new places and just getting healthier mentally and physically. And that is really what I've missed. So it's good to be out and about again today. I'm going to go hunting for a picture anyway, do a little bit of nature photography, hopefully get a little bit of wildlife in there as well. And once again, I would really love it if you were to come with me. I absolutely love this place, and it's happened really quickly that I've found something that's really piqued my interest. It's at times like this when I just feel so fortunate. It's quiet, there's barely anybody around, and I'm faced with this fantastic scene in front of me as the sun is beating down. It feels good to be out. I'm sat in the undergrowth here. I've got the 400mm lens on. I'm doing some wildlife photography. I say wildlife, it's of horses, but I think they are wild on this land, as far as horses can be wild here in the UK. But the scene in front of me is just absolutely beautiful. I was initially drawn to this fantastic tree that has just this beautiful shape with those beautiful spring green leaves on, and as the sun catches it, it just looks fantastic. But then when I looked closer, I saw a couple of horses nestling underneath, as you can see here. I would love to capture it. The horses are moving about a little bit, as you can see, but I really want one of them to move away. There's one that I think, the one to the right, which I think is just a little bit prettier. Now, what's going to make this work is it's got the tree branch and the top of the bottom part of the leaves framing that horse so beautifully. But then the horse is isolated from the background because off in a distance there are some trees just catching that sun, and they're much brighter than the horse. So it's almost like it's got a nice brighter highlighted background, which is just setting off the shape of that horse against that background. It just looks fantastic. I mean, I'm getting a few little specks of light coming on through the leaves onto the tree trunk as well. And overall, it's just fantastic. So let's see if I can capture something. So nice. Settings wise, I've got the camera on the tripod because the horses are fairly stationary, so I've had the time to set that up. I'm at 1/640th of a second. I was hand holding initially, so I just left it at that. But with f5.6, which is the biggest the aperture can go on this lens, and ISO 640, it's given me pretty much the perfect exposure. I've got down low because I want to be able to shoot through all of this grassland, and that's going to form the foreground of my image nice and blurred and just make it look absolutely fantastic. Such a nice moment. There's a few flies blasting around. I'm starting to get a little bit of cloud come over now, so it's darkening off a little bit, and that might work for me actually as the sun moves across through the scene. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, it still looks really, really nice there. Yes. I think that other one on the left is now starting to move away. Oh, that other one just looks so good on the right-hand side there, framed by that tree. I just need it to look up just for a moment just for a moment to get this just right. And he's looking up, I'm focused in on the right spot. 2-second timer, come on. Let's have a look again. That is so beautiful. What a fantastic moment that is. It's emotional sometimes, at times like this, and with the current state of things where I've been stuck inside, not being able to come out for quite a while, this feels, I don't know, it just feels right. It feels, I don't want to say reward, but it certainly does feel rewarding, and I feel a little bit lucky as well. Right, I am now doing something a little bit unconventional. It's landscape photography this time, but I still have this 400mm lens on. The reason for that is because if we look across this field to the tree line in the distance, there are a couple of really beautiful silver birch trees, and as I was walking past, I just saw them and they were just picking up all of that beautiful sunlight, and the leaves were just glowing and it looked absolutely just incredible. That's then contrasted against the wood in the background, which is in shadow, and the sun is pretty much coming from above the wood, so it's lighting up those silver birch trees and leaving the wood dark, and what that's doing is just isolating that tree or those trees beautifully from the background. So I've got this 400mm lens on just simply because it's so far away. I've gone vertical and I'm just isolating that one taller tree. And I think I would quite like to get a little bit of the sky in there as well, because it's really nice, detailed, cloudy sky. And just with the layers in there, I think it'll look really nice. So we've got that undergrowth in the foreground. Then we've got that tree beautifully isolated. I will darken that contrast or exaggerate that contrast in post-production. Then we've got some nice detail in the sky. So the 400mm lens has come in really, really useful. Now, one problem that I'm having, which I haven't experienced before because I don't do landscape photography at 400mm hardly ever, but one of the things that's happening is that I'm struggling with focus a little bit because the ground is warm and there's a heat haze. So because I'm at such a distance, I'm not even going to try and estimate the distance, but because I'm at such a distance, that heat haze is going through the scene and blurring parts of the image. So I'm really struggling with focus a little bit. So I don't know whether it's the right thing to do or not, but I've gone for 1/500th of a second just to get it as stable as possible, because the wind moves this lens around quite a lot as well. I want to also freeze the leaves as they move around in the wind, and it's looking good now actually. Let's go ahead and shoot that. I haven't got sun coming towards me, so it'll reduce the flare, even though this has a pretty decent lens hood. That's just glowing now. That is it. So nice. 1/500th of a second, f8, so nice. ISO 320, just to balance out that exposure. You can see the sun on my face there now. Right, let's take a look at that. That's just beautiful. And once I crop in a little bit, just to make it work right, because I'm at the fence here, I can't move backwards any further, can't move forwards any further, so I'm very restricted with my composition other than going left and right and up and down. Can't go closer, can't zoom with this lens. Just a shot I never would have been able to get if I hadn't brought this 400mm lens, and just paying attention as you walk around. It's the middle of the day, not the best time to shoot, but it's worked out with a really nice image there. I'm dead chuffed with that. Yes. Okay, so I am right away from any path now, and I am completely alone in the middle of nowhere, and it's absolutely stunning if you just have a quick look around there. I've got the sun on my face still, it's nice and warm, and I've found a nice little composition. This is not the sort of shot I would normally take. But I like those silver birch trees that are just across that pond there. I think they look really nice, just that small cluster. And that's what I want to photograph. And again, quite similar to last time, there's layers in the image as the sun has gone behind a cloud. And I've got this little pond here, and then the reeds on the other side are just showing those really beautiful spring greens. That then goes up into the white branches of those silver birch trees, and then we go up into the leaves, which when they catch that sunlight, again, just glow. And then above that, we've got those beautiful detailed clouds. And I just think overall, it's making a really nice composition. The only one problem that I think I'm going to have with it is the tree, that bigger tree just on the left there, is getting very close to the cluster of trees on the left-hand side. So it might be the case that there's not enough breathing room. That is currently in the shot, but I'm going to crop it down to something like an 8x10 or a square crop. Let me just adjust that exposure again as the tree is blowing about, but I will crop down and try and cut that tree out, but it may then be that there isn't enough breathing space for the cluster, but we'll see. So settings wise, I am at f8. It's still quite bright, so I'm working at 1/320th of a second, and I'm ISO 320. I've done that, up that ISO so I can up the shutter speed because the wind is blowing around and those silver birches are moving around in the wind, and I want to freeze that action. There is also a little bit of scum in the pond, which I don't particularly want in the image. I would like a bit more of a reflection of those trees, but that scum is kind of ruining it. So I've just lifted the composition to get the edge there. I've got a little bit of reflection from those trees. Back then goes into the trees themselves. So overall, I'm still pretty happy. I just want to wait for a moment when it's a little bit less windy, which I think is now. I'm on the 2-second timer. Yeah, I mean, again, it's not the sort of shot I normally take, but I think I'm actually really happy with that. But I mean, so beautiful. I'm at peace with the world right now, and it's so good to be out and about again after not being allowed out. If you're from Wales, Scotland or Northern Ireland or anywhere else that you're still not allowed to spend time outside, then I apologise, but hopefully it won't be too long. See, it's all about the experience. Now, I was going to come up here and get a final shot of the day, a sunset shot, but the clouds have completely cleared and I've got a blue sky and I just don't think it's going to work, but I really don't mind. If you want to learn photography from me, make sure you check out my landscape photography masterclass. You can get that now on a 7-day free trial to the Raw Room, which is my photography learning subscription service. I'll put a link for you to check that out down below, but I hope you all can get out again soon. Enjoy the experience, enjoy the adventure, and make the most of what nature has to offer. Do some landscape photography and feel better. See you soon.